welcome back to the Snoozing Scientist. Before we begin tonight's journey, I'd love for you to leave a comment down below telling me where you're tuning in from. There's something quietly fascinating about knowing that, all around the world, people in completely different places are listening to the same story at the same time, slowly winding down at the end of their day. So wherever you are tonight, I'm really glad you're here. Now, for this video, we're going to explore something incredibly familiar, but rarely thought about in detail. The human body. Not in a fast or overwhelming way, and not as a list of facts, but as a slow, continuous look at what's happening inside you right now, whether you notice it or not. Because at any given moment, your body is performing an almost unimaginable number of processes simultaneously. Your heart is beating, your lungs are exchanging gases, your brain is processing information, your cells are repairing and replacing themselves, all at once, and all without requiring your attention. And when you begin to look a little closer, what seems simple on the surface becomes surprisingly complex. Your brain, for example, is often described as the control center of the body, but that description doesn't quite capture what it's actually doing. At any given second, billions of neurons are communicating with each other through electrical and chemical signals. Each neuron can form thousands of connections with others, creating a network so dense that it's difficult to visualize. If you could map all of these connections, the complexity would exceed even the most advanced computer systems we've built. What's interesting is that this activity doesn't stop when you rest. Even when you're sitting still, or lying down, or doing nothing at all, your brain remains highly active. In fact, some regions of the brain become more active during rest than they are during focused tasks. This is often referred to as the default mode network, a system involved in internal thought, memory, and self-awareness. Your brain is also constantly predicting what will happen next. Rather than simply reacting to the world, it builds expectations based on past experience. When something matches that expectation, processing is smooth and efficient. When something doesn't, your brain adjusts, updating its internal model of the world. And all of this happens so quickly that you never experience the individual steps. At the same time, your heart is performing a different kind of coordination. On average, it beats around 100,000 times per day, pushing blood through a network of vessels that, if stretched out, would extend for tens of thousands of miles. This system reaches nearly every part of your body, delivering oxygen and nutrients while removing waste products. What makes the heart particularly interesting is that it generates its own electrical impulses. Specialized cells within the heart act as a natural pacemaker, sending signals that trigger each contraction. This means your heart doesn't rely directly on the brain to keep beating. Even when separated from the body under certain conditions, it can continue to beat for a short time on its own. Blood itself is also more complex than it might seem. Red blood cells are shaped in a way that maximizes their ability to carry oxygen, while white blood cells are constantly moving through your body, identifying and responding to potential threats. Platelets, another component, help repair damage by forming clots when needed. All of this is happening continuously, without pause. As your heart moves blood, your lungs are quietly maintaining a balance of gases that your body depends on. Each time you breathe in, oxygen enters your lungs and diffuses into your bloodstream. At the same time, carbon dioxide, a waste product of cellular activity, moves in the opposite direction and is expelled when you breathe out. What's remarkable is the scale at which this happens. Your lungs contain hundreds of millions of tiny air sacs, creating a surface area large enough to efficiently exchange gases with your blood. Despite this complexity, the entire process feels effortless. Your body also adjusts your breathing automatically. If you begin to move more, your breathing rate increases. If you relax, it slows. These adjustments are controlled by sensors that monitor levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your blood, ensuring that everything stays within a narrow range. And beneath all of this, at a level far too small to see, your cells are constantly renewing you. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, each carrying out specific functions. Some cells live for years, while others are replaced much more quickly. The lining of your stomach, for example, is replaced every few days, while certain skin cells are shed and renewed over the course of weeks. This means that, over time, much of your body is gradually replaced. You are not exactly the same, physically, as you were months or years ago. And yet, the continuity of your body and mind remains. Inside each cell, countless chemical reactions are taking place every second. Enzymes are speeding up reactions that would otherwise take far too long. DNA is being read and copied, and energy is being produced and used in precise amounts. It's an ongoing process of maintenance and renewal. Beneath that constant renewal, there is an entire system dedicated to communication, one that moves faster than anything you consciously experience. Your nervous system is not just a single pathway, but a vast network that connects nearly every part of your body, allowing information to travel in fractions of a second. Signals move along nerve fibers as electrical impulses, jumping between cells at specialized junctions called synapses. In some cases, these signals can travel at speeds of over 100 meters per second. That means that when you touch something hot, the information reaches your brain almost instantly, and your body can respond before you've even had time to think about it. This is why reflexes feel automatic. They are, in a sense, shortcuts built into your nervous system, allowing for rapid responses without waiting for conscious processing. But not all signals are urgent. Many are part of a slower, more continuous stream of information that your brain uses to build a picture of what's happening both inside and outside your body. Temperature, pressure, balance, internal organ function, all of these are being monitored constantly. And yet, most of it never reaches your awareness unless something changes significantly. There is also a second layer to this system, one that operates almost entirely outside of conscious control. It's known as the autonomic nervous system, and it regulates functions like heart rate, digestion, and breathing. Within it, there are two main branches working together in a kind of balance. One prepares your body for activity, increasing alertness and energy, while the other supports rest, recovery, and maintenance. At any given moment, your body is shifting between these states, adjusting based on what you're doing and what your environment requires. When things are calm, the system leans toward rest. When something demands attention, it shifts toward readiness. This balance is not fixed. It's constantly being fine-tuned. And while all of this is happening, your brain is also performing another task that often goes unnoticed. It is filtering. The amount of information available to your senses at any given moment is overwhelming. Light, sound, touch, internal signals. If your brain processed all of it equally, it would be impossible to focus. So instead, it selects what matters most and reduces the rest to background noise. This is why you can sit in a room and eventually stop noticing a constant sound, like a fan or distant traffic. The signal is still there, but your brain has decided it isn't important enough to keep bringing to your attention. In a way, your experience of reality is not just what exists around you, but what your brain chooses to highlight. That same filtering applies internally as well. Your body is sending signals continuously, but only a small portion of them reach conscious awareness. Most remain in the background, quietly maintaining balance without needing your involvement. If you shift your attention deeper still, another system begins to emerge, one that works more slowly but is just as essential. Your digestive system. Unlike the rapid signals of the nervous system, digestion is a gradual, continuous process. Food is broken down mechanically and chemically, moving through a long, carefully structured pathway. Enzymes are released at specific times, each one designed to break down a particular type of molecule. Proteins, fats, carbohydrates, each follows its own path of transformation. What's especially interesting is that your digestive system has its own network of neurons, sometimes referred to as the enteric nervous system. It's often called a second brain, not because it thinks in the way your primary brain does, but because it can operate independently, coordinating digestion without direct input from your central nervous system. This system is also closely connected to your brain through a communication pathway known as the gut-brain axis. Signals travel back and forth, influencing not just digestion, but mood and overall state. This is part of why your internal state can affect how you feel emotionally, and why stress can sometimes be felt physically. And then, quietly running alongside all of these systems, there is another layer of protection and maintenance, your immune system. It is constantly scanning, identifying, and responding to potential threats. Specialized cells move through your body, recognizing patterns associated with viruses, bacteria, or damaged cells. When something unfamiliar is detected, a response is triggered, often before you are aware of it. What's remarkable is that your immune system also has a form of memory. Once it encounters a particular threat, it can recognize it more quickly in the future, allowing for a faster and more effective response. This is part of how your body adapts over time, learning from past exposures in a way that doesn't require conscious effort. At the same time, your body is maintaining a careful balance of temperature, fluid levels, and chemical composition. This process, known as homeostasis, ensures that internal conditions remain stable even when the external environment changes. If your temperature rises, mechanisms are activated to cool you down. If it drops, your body works to generate heat. All of this is happening continuously, adjusting in real time. And yet, despite the complexity, the overall experience feels simple. You sit, you breathe, you exist, without needing to think about the countless processes supporting that moment. If you consider how all of these systems interact, it becomes clear that your body is not a collection of separate parts, but a coordinated whole. Each system depends on the others, sharing information, adjusting together, maintaining a kind of dynamic balance that is always in motion. Even now, as you listen, your brain is processing sound, your heart is maintaining circulation, your lungs are exchanging gases, your cells are renewing themselves, your nervous system is sending signals, your digestive system is continuing its work, and your immune system is quietly monitoring everything. None of it stops. None of it waits. And yet, it all unfolds in a way that feels effortless. There's something quietly remarkable about that. Not just the complexity, but the consistency. The way everything continues, moment after moment, without needing to be directed. It suggests that much of what keeps you going does not require your attention at all. It simply happens, reliably, continuously, in the background of everything else. And as you begin to notice that, even just slightly, there's a sense that your body is already doing exactly what it needs to do, allowing you to simply remain here, listening, as everything continues on, quietly, beneath the surface. If you look a little closer at how all of this is coordinated, another pattern begins to emerge, one that is slower, more gradual, but just as influential. Your body doesn't rely only on fast electrical signals. It also uses chemical messengers that travel through your bloodstream, reaching distant parts of your body over time. This system is known as the endocrine system, and it works through hormones. Hormones are released in carefully controlled amounts, often in response to changes in your environment or internal state. Unlike nerve signals, which act almost instantly, hormones move more slowly, shaping processes that unfold over minutes, hours, or even longer. They influence growth, metabolism, sleep, mood, and countless other functions, quietly guiding how your body adjusts over time. One of the most well-known examples is melatonin, a hormone closely tied to your sleep cycle. As light fades in the evening, your brain begins to increase melatonin production, signaling that it's time to rest. This process is influenced by your exposure to light throughout the day, which is why natural light plays such an important role in regulating sleep. Even if you don't consciously notice it, your body is constantly tracking these changes, adjusting its internal rhythms to match the world around you. This rhythm is part of something broader known as the circadian cycle, an internal timing system that operates on roughly a 24-hour pattern. It affects not just sleep, but body temperature, hormone levels, alertness, and energy. Throughout the day, your body moves through subtle shifts, rising and falling in activity in a way that feels natural when it is aligned, and slightly off when it is not. At the same time, your brain is performing another process that remains mostly hidden: clearing and maintaining itself. During periods of rest, especially during sleep, a system known as the glymphatic system becomes more active. It helps remove waste products that accumulate during waking hours, allowing the brain to reset and function more efficiently. What's interesting is that this process is much more active during sleep than when you are awake. It's as if your brain uses that time not just to rest, but to perform maintenance that would otherwise interfere with normal activity. This is one of the reasons sleep feels restorative. It's not just a pause, it's a period of active repair. While this is happening, your muscles are also shifting into a different state. During certain stages of sleep, your body reduces muscle activity significantly, preventing you from physically acting out your dreams. This temporary reduction in movement is a protective mechanism, allowing your mind to remain active without your body following every signal. Even outside of sleep, your muscles are constantly adjusting in small ways that you don't notice. Tiny corrections in posture, balance, and movement are happening all the time, guided by signals from your nervous system. These adjustments keep you stable, even when you are completely still. And then there is your sense of balance, something that feels effortless but relies on a surprisingly complex system. Deep within your inner ear, there are structures filled with fluid that shift as your head moves. These shifts are detected and translated into signals that tell your brain how your body is positioned in space. Combined with visual information and feedback from your muscles, this system allows you to remain upright and oriented without needing to think about it. If any part of that system is disrupted, even slightly, the effect is immediately noticeable. But when everything is working together, it feels completely natural, almost invisible. There is also something quietly remarkable about how your body manages energy. Every cell requires a steady supply of energy to function, and this energy is produced through a process that takes place inside structures called mitochondria. These tiny components convert nutrients into a usable form of energy, fueling everything from movement to thought. And this is happening constantly. Even at rest, your body is using energy to maintain its internal systems. Your brain alone consumes a significant portion of your energy supply, despite making up a relatively small part of your total body weight. It is always active, always processing, even when you are not focused on anything in particular. At the same time, your body is carefully storing and releasing energy as needed, maintaining a balance that allows you to move between activity and rest without interruption. This balance is influenced by hormones, by your environment, and by your own patterns of behavior, all working together in a way that feels seamless. There's also a quieter layer of interaction happening between your body and the countless microorganisms that live within it. Your body is home to trillions of bacteria, particularly within your digestive system. These microorganisms play a role in digestion, immune function, and even aspects of your overall health. They are not separate from you in the way we might imagine. Instead, they exist as part of a larger system, contributing to processes that support your body as a whole. It's a kind of partnership that operates quietly, without drawing attention to itself. And through all of this, your body is constantly adapting. It responds to changes in temperature, in activity, in environment, in stress. It adjusts, recalibrates, and continues, moment after moment, without needing to pause or reset. Another layer of the body that often goes unnoticed is how it constantly measures and adjusts itself without any conscious input. One example of this is blood pressure regulation. Your body has specialized sensors called baroreceptors located in major blood vessels, especially near the heart and neck. These sensors detect changes in pressure in real time. If your blood pressure drops, signals are sent to increase heart rate and constrict blood vessels. If it rises too much, the system adjusts in the opposite direction. This feedback loop is happening continuously, second by second, keeping circulation stable even as you stand up, sit down, or move around. At the same time, your body is managing temperature with a similar level of precision. The human body operates within a very narrow temperature range, and even small deviations trigger responses. If your internal temperature rises, your body increases blood flow to the skin and activates sweat glands, allowing heat to dissipate. If it drops, your muscles may begin to contract rapidly, producing heat through shivering. These responses are automatic and coordinated, designed to maintain balance regardless of external conditions. Your skin itself plays a much more active role than it might seem. It is not just a protective layer, but a sensory organ filled with receptors that detect pressure, temperature, vibration, and pain. Different types of receptors respond to different stimuli, and they are distributed unevenly across your body. Areas like your fingertips and face are far more sensitive than other regions, allowing for fine detection of detail. This is why you can feel the smallest texture with your fingers, while other areas require stronger contact to register the same sensation. Beneath the surface, your bones are also far from static. They are constantly being broken down and rebuilt through a process called remodeling. Specialized cells called osteoclasts break down old bone tissue, while osteoblasts build new bone in its place. This process allows your skeleton to adapt to stress over time. If a bone experiences increased load, it can become denser and stronger. If it is used less, it may gradually lose density. Your skeleton is, in a sense, always updating itself based on how it is used. Your muscles follow a similar pattern of adaptation. They are made up of fibers that can change in response to activity. When you use a muscle repeatedly, microscopic damage occurs within those fibers. Your body responds by repairing and reinforcing them, making them stronger over time. This process is gradual and requires recovery, but it allows your body to adjust to new demands. At a smaller scale, your blood is constantly circulating not just oxygen, but also information. Hormones, nutrients, waste products, and immune signals all travel through your bloodstream. It acts as a transport system, connecting distant parts of your body into a single coordinated system. A signal released in one area can influence activity in another, allowing your body to respond as a whole rather than as isolated parts. Your liver plays a central role in maintaining this balance. It processes nutrients absorbed from your digestive system, regulates levels of glucose in your blood, and helps remove toxins. It is one of the most metabolically active organs in your body, performing hundreds of different functions simultaneously. What makes it particularly interesting is its ability to regenerate. Even if a portion of the liver is removed or damaged, it can regrow to restore its original size and function. Your kidneys, working alongside the liver, filter your blood continuously. They remove waste products and excess substances, maintaining the balance of fluids and electrolytes. Each kidney contains around 1 million tiny filtering units called nephrons. These structures process blood in a highly controlled way, reabsorbing what is needed and excreting what is not. Over the course of a day, your kidneys filter large volumes of blood, yet the process remains completely unnoticed. Your sense of taste is another system that appears simple but is more complex than it seems. Taste receptors on your tongue detect basic categories like sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. However, much of what you perceive as flavor actually comes from your sense of smell. When you eat, molecules travel from your mouth to your nasal passages, combining taste and smell into a single experience. This is why food can seem less flavorful when your sense of smell is reduced. Your eyes, constantly adjusting, are also performing continuous corrections. Tiny muscles control the shape of your lenses, allowing you to focus on objects at different distances. Your pupils expand and contract to regulate how much light enters. Meanwhile, your brain is processing visual information and constructing a stable image, even though your eyes are constantly making small movements. Without those movements, your vision would actually begin to fade, because your brain responds best to changing input. Your body also maintains a constant awareness of position, known as proprioception. Even with your eyes closed, you can sense where your limbs are and how they are moving. This awareness comes from receptors in your muscles, tendons, and joints, sending continuous feedback to your brain. It allows you to move smoothly and coordinate actions without needing to look at every movement. Even something as simple as healing reflects the complexity of your body. When a small cut occurs, your body initiates a multi-step process. Blood clotting begins almost immediately, forming a temporary barrier. Then, cells migrate to the area, rebuilding tissue and restoring structure. Over time, the area strengthens, sometimes leaving a scar as a record of the repair. Your body also manages hydration with precision. Sensors in your brain detect the concentration of fluids in your blood. If levels shift, you experience thirst, prompting you to drink. At the same time, your kidneys adjust how much water is retained or excreted, maintaining balance. All of these systems are interconnected. Changes in one area influence others, creating a network of feedback and adjustment that keeps your body stable. None of it requires conscious control, yet all of it is highly coordinated. And even as you sit and listen, these processes continue uninterrupted, maintaining a level of organization and balance that is easy to overlook but constantly present. If you look even deeper into how your body maintains that level of coordination, one of the most interesting aspects is how it manages timing. Not just the daily rhythm of sleep and wakefulness, but the timing of individual processes down to fractions of a second. For example, when your heart beats, there is a precise sequence of electrical signals that travel through specific pathways, causing different chambers of the heart to contract in a coordinated pattern. If that timing is even slightly off, the efficiency of blood flow changes. Yet under normal conditions, this sequence repeats with remarkable consistency, adapting instantly to changes in activity. That same idea of timing appears in movement. When you reach for something, dozens of muscles must contract and relax in the correct order, with just the right amount of force. Your brain calculates distance, speed, and resistance almost instantly, sending signals that adjust in real time. If the object is heavier than expected, your muscles compensate without you needing to consciously correct the movement. This constant adjustment is part of what makes motion feel smooth and controlled rather than mechanical. Your body also has a built-in system for detecting damage at the smallest scale. When cells are injured or begin to malfunction, chemical signals are released that attract attention from the immune system. In some cases, cells will even initiate a process called apoptosis, or programmed cell death, effectively removing themselves before they can cause harm. This is a controlled and highly regulated process, ensuring that damaged or unnecessary cells are replaced without disrupting the surrounding tissue. Another process that runs continuously is the regulation of blood sugar. Glucose is the primary source of energy for many of your cells, especially in the brain. After you eat, glucose levels in your blood rise, and your body responds by releasing insulin, a hormone that helps cells absorb and use that glucose. When levels drop, other hormones signal the release of stored energy to maintain stability. This balance is tightly controlled because even small fluctuations can affect how your body functions. At the same time, your body is constantly monitoring oxygen levels, not just in your lungs, but throughout your bloodstream. Specialized receptors detect changes in oxygen and carbon dioxide, adjusting your breathing rate accordingly. This is why your breathing naturally speeds up during physical activity and slows when you are at rest. The system responds automatically, keeping everything within a range that supports normal function. There is also something interesting in how your body prioritizes tasks. When energy demands increase, certain processes take precedence over others. During intense activity, for example, blood flow is directed more toward muscles and less toward digestion. Once the activity ends, the balance shifts again. This dynamic allocation allows your body to respond efficiently to changing conditions without needing to stop or reset. Your body also has an internal repair system for DNA, the genetic material inside your cells. DNA is constantly being exposed to small amounts of damage from normal metabolic activity and environmental factors. To counter this, your cells contain mechanisms that detect and repair these errors. Enzymes scan DNA strands, identify mismatches or breaks, and correct them. Without this system, damage would accumulate quickly, but with it, most errors are fixed before they can cause problems. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles sensory input over time. When you are exposed to a constant stimulus, such as a steady pressure or a consistent temperature, your sensory receptors gradually reduce their response. This process, known as sensory adaptation, allows your brain to focus on changes rather than constant signals. It's why you stop noticing the feeling of clothing against your skin after a while, even though the sensation is still technically present. Your body also maintains a constant balance of fluids between different compartments. Water moves between cells, blood vessels, and surrounding tissues based on concentration gradients. Electrolytes like sodium and potassium play a key role in this process, helping regulate how fluid shifts throughout your body. This balance is essential for maintaining cell function, nerve signaling, and overall stability. At a microscopic level, proteins within your body are constantly folding into precise shapes that determine how they function. These structures are not random. Each protein must fold correctly to perform its role, whether that's acting as an enzyme, a structural component, or a signaling molecule. If folding goes wrong, the protein may not function properly, which is why your cells also have systems in place to identify and correct or remove misfolded proteins. Your body is also continuously producing heat as a byproduct of its metabolic processes. Even at rest, chemical reactions within your cells generate energy, and some of that energy is released as heat. This contributes to maintaining your internal temperature, working alongside other mechanisms like blood flow and muscle activity. There is even a subtle coordination between your breathing and your heart rate. As you inhale, your heart rate tends to increase slightly, and as you exhale, it slows down. This pattern, known as respiratory sinus arrhythmia, reflects the interaction between your respiratory and cardiovascular systems. It's a small fluctuation, but it happens consistently, showing how different systems in your body are linked. All of these processes are happening at once, overlapping and interacting in ways that are difficult to fully track. There is no single control point managing everything. Instead, it is a distributed system, with different parts communicating and adjusting continuously. And despite the scale and complexity, it all remains stable, moment after moment, without interruption. If you keep tracing these systems further, one of the most interesting patterns is how your body handles redundancy. Many critical functions are supported by multiple overlapping mechanisms, so that if one pathway is disrupted, another can compensate. This is especially true in the brain, where networks can reorganize themselves over time. This ability, known as neuroplasticity, allows the brain to adapt based on experience, learning, or even injury. Connections between neurons are strengthened or weakened depending on how frequently they are used, which is why repetition can reinforce certain skills or habits at a physical level inside the brain. This adaptability also appears in how your body responds to repeated environments. When you are exposed to the same conditions over time, your body begins to anticipate them. For example, if you regularly eat at a certain time, your digestive system may begin preparing in advance, increasing enzyme production before food even arrives. Similarly, exposure to regular physical activity can shift how your body uses energy, improving efficiency over time. These changes are gradual, but they reflect your body's ability to learn patterns without conscious effort. Your blood itself contains another layer of adaptability. Red blood cells, which carry oxygen, are produced in response to demand. If your body requires more oxygen over time, such as at higher altitudes or during sustained physical activity, production can increase. These cells are constantly being replaced, with new ones forming in your bone marrow as older ones are removed from circulation. Each one has a limited lifespan, but the system as a whole remains continuous. There is also a precise balance in how your body manages minerals and ions, which are essential for electrical activity. Sodium, potassium, calcium, and other ions move in and out of cells in controlled ways, creating the electrical gradients that allow nerve signals to travel. Without this balance, the signals that coordinate movement, sensation, and organ function would not work correctly. Your body maintains these gradients constantly, using energy to keep the system stable. Your eyes provide another example of continuous adjustment. Beyond focusing and light regulation, they are also performing a process called accommodation, where the shape of the lens changes slightly to maintain clarity at different distances. At the same time, your brain is combining input from both eyes to create depth perception, allowing you to judge distance and spatial relationships. This happens so quickly and seamlessly that it feels effortless, even though it involves constant recalculation. There is also a subtle process happening in your blood vessels called vasodilation and vasoconstriction. Blood vessels can widen or narrow in response to signals from your nervous system and hormones. This allows your body to direct blood flow where it is needed most. During physical activity, vessels supplying muscles widen to increase oxygen delivery, while others may narrow to maintain overall pressure. This dynamic adjustment is happening continuously, matching circulation to your current needs. Your body also has a way of detecting changes in pH, which reflects how acidic or alkaline your internal environment is. Even slight shifts can affect how proteins function and how reactions occur, so your body works to keep pH within a narrow range. Buffers in your blood, along with adjustments in breathing and kidney function, help maintain this balance. It's another example of how multiple systems coordinate to stabilize a single variable. At the cellular level, communication is happening not just through direct contact, but through chemical signals that diffuse across small spaces. Cells release molecules that bind to receptors on other cells, triggering specific responses. This allows tissues to coordinate activity, whether it's growing, repairing, or responding to changes in the environment. It's a form of communication that operates quietly and continuously, shaping how your body functions as a whole. If levels drop, your body may adjust absorption or utilization to compensate. These adjustments happen gradually, reflecting long-term balance rather than immediate response. There is even a process that governs how your body handles aging at the cellular level. Structures called telomeres, located at the ends of chromosomes, shorten slightly each time a cell divides. Over time, this shortening can influence how cells function and how tissues maintain themselves. While this process is still being studied, it represents another layer of regulation built into your biology. Your body also uses feedback loops to maintain stability across nearly every system. A change is detected, a response is triggered, and the result of that response is monitored to determine whether further adjustment is needed. These loops can be fast or slow, simple or complex, but they all serve the same purpose, keeping conditions within a range that supports normal function. And while all of this is happening, your body remains remarkably efficient. Energy is used where it is needed, signals are sent only when required, and systems adjust just enough to maintain balance without overcorrecting. It is not a rigid system, but a flexible one, constantly adapting while remaining stable. All of these layers, electrical, chemical, structural, operate together, forming a system that is both highly complex and consistently reliable. Even though each part has its own role, none of them function in isolation. Everything is connected, influencing and supporting everything else in ways that are often too subtle to notice directly. And through all of it, the process continues without interruption, moment after moment, maintaining a level of coordination that rarely draws attention, but is always present. Another interesting layer appears when you look at how your body handles errors, because mistakes at the cellular level happen far more often than you might expect. Every time a cell divides, it has to copy its DNA, which contains billions of individual base pairs. Even with extremely high accuracy, small errors can occur. What makes this system reliable is not perfection, but correction. Cells have proofreading mechanisms that scan newly copied DNA and fix mismatches almost immediately. Additional repair systems continue to monitor and correct damage over time, meaning that most errors are detected and resolved long before they have any noticeable effect. This constant correction is part of a broader idea in the body: precision through repetition. Many processes are not performed once, but continuously checked and rechecked. Protein production, for example, follows instructions encoded in DNA, but those instructions are interpreted through multiple steps. At each stage, there are opportunities for adjustment, ensuring that the final result is as accurate as possible. It's a layered system where reliability comes from redundancy and verification rather than a single perfect step. Your body also has a way of prioritizing stability over speed when it matters. For example, when blood clotting begins after an injury, it doesn't immediately form a solid barrier. Instead, it follows a cascade of reactions, each activating the next in sequence. This controlled process prevents clotting from occurring too quickly or in the wrong place, which could be dangerous. The result is a system that is both responsive and regulated, balancing speed with control. There is also something notable about how your body interprets signals that are not entirely clear. In many cases, cells respond not to a single signal, but to a combination of signals that together provide context. This allows for more nuanced responses. A signal that might trigger one outcome in one situation could lead to a different outcome in another, depending on what other signals are present at the same time. It's a form of decision-making at the cellular level, based on patterns rather than isolated inputs. Your immune system demonstrates this kind of pattern recognition particularly well. Instead of identifying every possible threat individually, it looks for general features that are common among harmful organisms. This allows it to respond to unfamiliar threats by recognizing patterns rather than needing prior exposure. At the same time, it must avoid reacting to the body's own cells, which requires a process of differentiation that begins early and continues throughout life. Another process that runs continuously is the recycling of materials within your body. Cells break down old or damaged components and reuse the building blocks to create new ones. This process, known as autophagy, helps maintain efficiency and prevents the accumulation of waste. It's not something that happens only occasionally, but a constant background activity that supports cellular health. Your body also manages pressure in ways that are easy to overlook. Within your skull, for example, the brain is surrounded by fluid that cushions and protects it. This fluid is produced and reabsorbed continuously, maintaining a stable pressure environment. Similarly, pressure within your eyes is regulated to preserve shape and function. These systems operate quietly, but they are essential for maintaining structural integrity. There is also an ongoing process of calibration happening in your sensory systems. Your hearing, for instance, adapts to different environments by adjusting sensitivity. In a quiet setting, your auditory system becomes more sensitive, allowing you to detect faint sounds. In a louder environment, it reduces sensitivity to prevent overload. This adjustment happens automatically, allowing you to function across a wide range of conditions. Your sense of smell, though less dominant than in dogs, still plays a role in detecting environmental cues. It is closely linked to areas of the brain involved in memory and emotion, which is why certain scents can trigger strong recollections or reactions. This connection operates quickly, often before you consciously identify the smell itself. Your body also maintains structural integrity at the microscopic level through the cytoskeleton, a network of protein filaments inside cells. This structure helps maintain cell shape, supports internal organization, and allows for movement within the cell. It is constantly assembling and disassembling, adapting to the cell's needs in real time. Another layer of coordination appears in how your body distributes resources during different states. During periods of rest, energy may be directed toward repair and maintenance. During activity, resources shift toward movement and immediate demands. This redistribution happens seamlessly, guided by signals that reflect your current state. Even your voice, something that feels simple, involves precise coordination. Airflow from your lungs passes through your vocal cords, causing them to vibrate. The tension of these cords, along with the shape of your mouth and throat, determines the sound produced. Small adjustments in muscle control allow for a wide range of tones and pitches, all coordinated in real time. Your body also uses gradients, differences in concentration or charge, to drive movement at the cellular level. Molecules move from areas of higher concentration to lower concentration, or are actively transported against gradients using energy. These movements are fundamental to processes like nutrient absorption and nerve signaling. There is also a subtle interaction between your body and gravity. Your circulatory system must constantly work against gravity to move blood upward, especially to the brain. Valves in your veins help prevent backflow, and muscle contractions assist in pushing blood through the system. When you change position, your body quickly adjusts to maintain consistent blood flow. And through all of these processes, there is a common theme. Your body does not rely on a single solution to any problem. Instead, it uses multiple overlapping systems, each contributing to stability in its own way. This layered approach allows for flexibility, resilience, and continuous function even when conditions change. All of this continues without interruption, forming a system that is constantly active, constantly adjusting, and constantly maintaining itself in ways that are rarely noticed but always present. Another layer of complexity appears when you look at how your body moves things across membranes, because nearly every cell is surrounded by a barrier that controls what enters and what leaves. This barrier, the cell membrane, is not just a passive wall. It is selectively permeable, meaning it allows certain molecules to pass through while blocking others. Some substances move freely, but many require specialized proteins that act like gates or channels. In some cases, energy is used to actively transport molecules against their natural gradient, ensuring that the right balance is maintained inside the cell at all times. This control becomes especially important in nerve cells, where tiny changes in ion concentrations create electrical signals. Sodium and potassium ions move across the membrane in carefully regulated patterns, generating the impulses that allow neurons to communicate. These signals are not random. They follow a precise sequence, opening and closing channels in a wave that travels along the length of the neuron. When the signal reaches the end, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters, which cross a small gap and continue the message to the next cell. Your brain relies on a wide variety of these neurotransmitters, each with different effects. Some increase activity in certain pathways, while others reduce it. The balance between them shapes how information is processed, influencing everything from movement to attention to mood. This balance is constantly shifting, responding to both internal states and external stimuli. Another system that operates with similar precision is your respiratory control. While breathing feels automatic, it is actually regulated by centers in your brainstem that continuously monitor blood chemistry. These centers respond primarily to carbon dioxide levels rather than oxygen, adjusting your breathing rate to maintain balance. This is why breathing can change subtly without you noticing, becoming faster or slower depending on what your body needs. Your body also uses pressure differences to move fluids in ways that are easy to overlook. In your lungs, for example, breathing is driven by changes in pressure within your chest cavity. When the diaphragm contracts, it increases the volume of the chest, lowering pressure and drawing air in. When it relaxes, pressure increases and air is pushed out. This mechanical process is repeated with each breath, driven by muscle movement and pressure gradients rather than active suction. In your circulatory system, similar principles apply. Blood flow is influenced by pressure differences created by the heart's contractions, as well as resistance within blood vessels. Smaller vessels can constrict or expand, adjusting resistance and influencing how blood is distributed throughout the body. This allows for fine control over circulation, ensuring that different tissues receive what they need based on current conditions. There is also a continuous process of calibration happening in your sense of timing and coordination. Your cerebellum, a region at the back of your brain, plays a key role in refining movement. It compares intended actions with actual outcomes, making small adjustments to improve accuracy. This is why repeated actions often become smoother over time, as the system fine-tunes itself based on feedback. Your body also maintains a constant supply of new proteins, each built according to instructions encoded in your DNA. This process begins with transcription, where a segment of DNA is copied into messenger RNA. That RNA is then used as a template for assembling amino acids into a specific sequence, forming a protein. Each protein has a defined structure that determines its function, whether it's catalyzing a reaction, forming part of a structure, or acting as a signal. At the same time, your body is continuously breaking down proteins that are no longer needed. This balance between synthesis and degradation ensures that proteins remain functional and that damaged ones are removed. It's a dynamic system, constantly renewing itself at a microscopic level. Another interesting process involves how your body detects and responds to low oxygen levels in specific tissues. If an area is not receiving enough oxygen, local signals can trigger the growth of new blood vessels, a process known as angiogenesis. This allows the body to adapt over time, improving blood supply where it is needed most. Your body also uses feedback from stretch receptors in muscles and organs to regulate activity. In the lungs, these receptors help control the depth of breathing. In the stomach, they signal fullness as it expands. In muscles, they provide information about tension and length, helping to coordinate movement and prevent injury. There is also a continuous exchange happening between your blood and surrounding tissues through tiny vessels called capillaries. These vessels are so small that red blood cells often pass through them in single file. Their thin walls allow for efficient exchange of oxygen, nutrients, and waste products. This exchange is driven by concentration gradients and pressure differences, ensuring that materials move where they are needed without requiring active control. Your body also manages oxidative stress, which results from normal metabolic activity. As cells produce energy, they generate byproducts that can damage structures if not controlled. To counter this, your body produces antioxidants and repair systems that neutralize or fix this damage. It's another example of how the body balances ongoing processes with mechanisms that maintain stability. Even your posture, something that feels static, is actually the result of continuous muscle activity. Small adjustments are happening constantly to keep you balanced, guided by feedback from your inner ear, eyes, and muscles. Without these adjustments, maintaining an upright position would not be possible. Your body also, at every level, from whole systems down to individual molecules, your body is operating through a combination of signals, feedback loops, and adjustments. It is not a system that simply runs, it is one that continuously monitors itself, corrects itself, and adapts to changing conditions. All of this unfolds simultaneously, forming a network of processes that remain stable not because they are fixed, but because they are constantly adjusting. Another detail that often goes unnoticed is how your body manages memory at a physical level. When you learn something new, or even experience something repeatedly, the connections between certain neurons become stronger. This process is known as long-term potentiation. It doesn't create new structures from nothing, but instead adjusts the strength of existing connections, making certain pathways easier to activate in the future. In a way, memory is not stored in a single place, but distributed across networks that are constantly being reshaped based on experience. This reshaping doesn't stop after the moment of learning. During sleep, especially in certain stages, your brain replays patterns of activity that occurred during the day. These replays help stabilize and reinforce those neural connections, which is why sleep is so closely tied to memory formation. It's not just rest. It's a continuation of processing that began while you were awake. Your body also has a way of detecting orientation relative to gravity that goes beyond balance alone. Inside your inner ear, small structures contain tiny crystals that shift in response to movement and changes in position. These shifts are detected by sensory cells, allowing your brain to determine whether you are tilting, accelerating, or moving in a straight line. This system works continuously, even when you are completely still, providing a constant reference for orientation. There is also a quiet complexity in how your body handles light. When light enters your eyes, it is converted into electrical signals by specialized cells in the retina. These signals are then processed and sent to your brain, where they are interpreted as images. But the process doesn't end there. Your brain actively fills in gaps, adjusts for movement, and stabilizes your perception of the world. Without this constant processing, your visual experience would be fragmented and unstable. Another interesting process involves how your body manages iron, an essential element for carrying oxygen in your blood. Iron is carefully regulated because both too little and too much can be harmful. Your body controls absorption from food and recycles iron from old red blood cells, maintaining a balance that supports continuous oxygen transport. Your body also has a built-in system for detecting stretching in blood vessels and organs. These stretch receptors provide feedback that helps regulate processes like blood pressure and digestion. In the stomach, for example, stretching signals contribute to the feeling of fullness, helping to regulate how much you eat. There is also a constant turnover of proteins within your body. Even proteins that are functioning correctly are eventually broken down and replaced. This ensures that cellular components remain efficient and reduces the accumulation of damage over time. It's a continuous cycle of construction and deconstruction happening at a microscopic scale. Your body also uses electrical activity in ways that extend beyond nerve signals. For example, the heart's rhythm can be measured as an electrical pattern, and even muscle contractions are driven by electrical changes within cells. These electrical processes are coordinated across tissues, allowing different parts of the body to act in sync. Another layer of coordination appears in how your body regulates calcium, a mineral that plays roles in bone strength, muscle contraction, and nerve signaling. Calcium levels in your blood are tightly controlled, with hormones adjusting how much is absorbed, stored, or released from bones as needed. Your body also monitors levels of carbon dioxide very closely, not just as a waste product, but as a key signal for regulating breathing. Rising carbon dioxide levels trigger an increase in breathing rate, ensuring that excess is removed and oxygen levels remain stable. There is also a subtle process happening in how your body manages pressure in joints. Synovial fluid within joints acts as a lubricant, reducing friction between surfaces as you move. This fluid also helps distribute nutrients to cartilage, which does not have its own direct blood supply. Your body also has a way of adapting to repeated stimuli in a process called habituation. If a stimulus is repeated without significant consequence, your response to it gradually decreases. This allows you to conserve attention for changes that are more relevant, rather than reacting equally to everything. Another interesting aspect is how your body handles oxygen at high altitudes. When oxygen levels are lower, your body responds by increasing breathing rate and producing more red blood cells over time. These adjustments improve oxygen delivery, allowing you to function in environments that would otherwise be challenging. Your body also maintains a constant cycle of cell division and specialization. Stem cells in certain tissues can develop into different types of cells as needed, supporting repair and maintenance. This ability varies across tissues, but it contributes to your body's capacity to renew itself. There is also a quiet coordination between your digestive system and your immune system. A large portion of your immune cells are located in your gut, where they monitor incoming substances and respond to potential threats. This creates a balance between tolerance and defense, allowing your body to process food while still protecting itself. Your body also uses feedback from sensory systems to refine movement continuously. When you perform an action, your brain compares expected outcomes with actual results, adjusting future movements accordingly. This process happens rapidly, often without conscious awareness, allowing for smooth coordination. At every level, your body is balancing input and output, detecting changes, and adjusting responses in ways that are both precise and continuous. It is not a system that simply reacts, but one that anticipates, adapts, and maintains stability through constant interaction between its many parts. Another layer of the body that rarely gets attention is how it keeps its internal environment stable despite constant external change. This process, known as homeostasis, is not controlled from a single location, but from many distributed systems working together. For example, your blood salt concentration is kept within a very narrow range. If it becomes too diluted or too concentrated, cells can swell or shrink, which affects how they function. To prevent this, your body adjusts thirst, kidney filtration, and hormone release all at once, keeping the balance tightly regulated. Your brain itself is protected by a specialized filtering system called the blood-brain barrier. Unlike most tissues, where substances can move more freely from the bloodstream into cells, the brain is highly selective. Only certain molecules are allowed to pass through, while others are blocked. This protects sensitive neural tissue from toxins and fluctuations in blood chemistry, ensuring that the brain operates in a stable environment even when conditions elsewhere in the body change. There is also a constant process of signal amplification happening inside your cells. A single molecule binding to a receptor on the surface of a cell can trigger a cascade of reactions inside, multiplying the signal many times over. This allows very small changes to produce meaningful effects. For example, a tiny amount of a hormone can influence large numbers of cells, because each interaction sets off a chain reaction that spreads the message. Your body also relies heavily on gradients, differences in concentration, charge, or pressure, to drive movement without direct effort. Oxygen moves from areas of higher concentration in your lungs to lower concentration in your blood. Nutrients move from your digestive system into your bloodstream. Even nerve signals depend on differences in electrical charge across cell membranes. These gradients are constantly maintained and used, allowing movement to happen efficiently without needing to actively push everything along. Another interesting feature is how your body detects and responds to stretching in muscles through structures called muscle spindles. These sensors monitor how much a muscle is lengthening and how quickly that change is happening. If a muscle stretches too quickly, a reflex is triggered that causes it to contract, helping prevent injury. This is the same mechanism behind reflexes like the knee-jerk response, and it operates continuously to protect your body during movement. Your body also has a way of adjusting sensitivity in its receptors over time. For instance, in low-light conditions, your eyes become more sensitive by increasing the activity of certain cells in the retina. This process takes time, which is why it can take several minutes for your vision to adjust in the dark. Once adjusted, you are able to detect much lower levels of light than you could before. There is also an ongoing process of waste removal that operates at multiple levels. At the cellular level, waste products from metabolism are packaged and transported out of the cell. At the organ level, systems like the liver and kidneys filter and process these substances. Even your breath plays a role, removing carbon dioxide with each exhale. These processes ensure that byproducts of normal activity do not accumulate to harmful levels. Your body also maintains structural strength through constant micro-adjustments. In tendons and ligaments, collagen fibers are arranged in patterns that allow them to handle tension. These fibers can be remodeled over time, becoming stronger or more aligned depending on how they are used. This allows connective tissue to adapt to repeated stress, similar to how muscles and bones adjust. There is also something interesting in how your body uses feedback from the environment to regulate internal processes. For example, exposure to light not only affects vision, but also influences hormone production, alertness, and sleep timing. Temperature changes can alter blood flow and metabolic rate. These external signals are constantly being integrated into your body's internal regulation. Your body also uses oscillations, or repeating cycles, to coordinate activity. Heart rate, breathing, and even brain activity follow rhythmic patterns. These rhythms can synchronize with each other under certain conditions, creating a kind of coordinated timing across different systems. This synchronization helps maintain efficiency and stability. Another detail appears in how your body manages repair at different scales. Small injuries may be resolved quickly with minimal response, while larger injuries trigger more extensive processes involving inflammation, tissue growth, and remodeling. The intensity of the response is matched to the scale of the damage, ensuring that resources are used efficiently. Your body also has mechanisms for detecting chemical signals in the bloodstream that reflect overall conditions. For example, sensors in your brain detect glucose levels and adjust hunger and energy usage accordingly. Other sensors monitor oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH, ensuring that critical variables remain within safe limits. There is also a continuous interaction between mechanical forces and biological responses. Pressure, tension, and movement all influence how cells behave. In bones, increased load leads to increased density. In muscles, repeated use leads to growth and strengthening. These responses are not directed consciously, but emerge from the way cells respond to physical forces. Even your sense of time, at a biological level, is influenced by internal processes. Certain cells in your brain act as timekeepers, coordinating rhythms that extend beyond daily cycles. These internal clocks help regulate when certain processes occur, ensuring that they are aligned with each other. At every level, your body is not just functioning. It is constantly adjusting, responding, and maintaining balance through a combination of signals, feedback, and adaptation. These processes are ongoing, interconnected, and highly coordinated, allowing your body to remain stable even as conditions change. Another layer of the body that becomes more interesting the closer you look at it is how it handles information storage beyond the brain. While we often think of memory as something purely neurological, your immune system also has a form of memory. When it encounters a pathogen for the first time, certain immune cells learn to recognize it. If that same pathogen appears again, the response is faster and more targeted. This is why some illnesses are less severe the second time, and why vaccines are effective. They train this system in advance, allowing it to respond efficiently without needing to experience the full impact of the infection. There is also a remarkable level of coordination in how your body handles blood clotting. When a blood vessel is damaged, the response is immediate but controlled. Platelets begin to gather at the site, forming a temporary plug. At the same time, a series of chemical reactions is triggered, strengthening that plug into a more stable clot. What makes this system interesting is that it must remain localized. If clotting occurred throughout the bloodstream, it would be dangerous. So the body uses both activating and inhibiting signals to ensure that clotting happens exactly where it is needed and nowhere else. Your body also maintains a continuous cycle of oxygen delivery that depends on subtle changes in chemistry. Hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen, does not hold onto oxygen equally in all conditions. In areas where carbon dioxide levels are higher or the environment is slightly more acidic, hemoglobin releases oxygen more readily. This allows oxygen to be delivered more efficiently to tissues that are actively using it, such as muscles during activity. Another process that operates quietly is the regulation of fluid between your bloodstream and surrounding tissues. Fluid moves out of capillaries due to pressure and returns through both capillaries and the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system acts as a secondary pathway, collecting excess fluid and returning it to circulation. It also plays a role in immune function, transporting immune cells and filtering substances through structures called lymph nodes. Your body also constantly monitors and adjusts electrolyte balance. Sodium, potassium, and calcium ions are not only important for hydration, but also for electrical activity in nerves and muscles. Even small changes in their concentration can affect how signals are transmitted. Your kidneys, along with hormonal signals, regulate these levels with high precision. There is also an interesting mechanism in how your body prevents overreaction in its systems. For many processes, once a response has reached a certain level, feedback signals are sent to reduce or stop further activity. This is known as negative feedback. For example, once enough of a hormone has been produced, signals are sent to reduce its production. This prevents systems from becoming too active and maintains balance. Your body also uses specialized proteins called receptors to detect changes both inside and outside of cells. These receptors are highly specific, often responding only to certain molecules or signals. When activated, they initiate responses that can alter cell behavior, gene expression, or communication with other cells. This specificity allows for precise control over how cells respond to different conditions. Another detail appears in how your body handles mechanical stress at the cellular level. Cells can detect when they are being stretched or compressed, and they respond by altering their structure or activity. This is part of how tissues adapt to physical forces, reinforcing areas that experience repeated stress. Your body also has a system for managing inflammation, which is part of the immune response. When tissue is damaged or a threat is detected, inflammatory signals increase blood flow and recruit immune cells to the area. While this response is essential for healing, it must also be regulated carefully. Too much inflammation can cause damage, so your body uses countersignals to reduce the response once it is no longer needed. There is also a continuous turnover of cells in your immune system. Many immune cells have relatively short lifespans and are constantly being replaced. This allows your immune system to remain responsive and adaptable, adjusting to new conditions over time. Your body also maintains a balance between different types of bacteria in your digestive system. These bacteria compete and cooperate in ways that influence digestion and immune function. The balance can shift based on diet, environment, and other factors, and your body continuously interacts with this system to maintain stability. Another process that operates quietly is the regulation of blood volume. Your body adjusts how much fluid is retained or excreted to maintain consistent circulation. Hormones signal the kidneys to conserve water or release it, depending on hydration levels and other conditions. Your body also uses gradients of electrical charge across cell membranes to store and release energy in nerve and muscle cells. These gradients are maintained using energy, and when they are disrupted, signals are generated. This is the basis for both nerve impulses and muscle contractions. There is also a subtle coordination between different organs when responding to stress or activity. The heart increases output, the lungs adjust breathing, blood vessels redirect flow, and hormone signal changes in energy use. All of these responses happen together, forming a coordinated adjustment rather than isolated reactions. At a smaller scale, your cells are constantly producing and using ATP, a molecule that stores energy. ATP is generated through processes like cellular respiration and is used to power nearly all cellular activities. It is continuously produced and consumed, forming a cycle that supports everything from movement to signaling. All of these processes, from large-scale systems down to molecular interactions, are happening simultaneously. They are interconnected, with each part influencing the others in ways that maintain stability while allowing for change. Another layer that becomes more interesting the closer you examine it is how your body deals with oxygen at the level of individual cells. Once oxygen reaches a cell, it doesn't just sit there, it's used inside mitochondria in a series of chemical reactions that extract energy from nutrients. This process, known as cellular respiration, is highly efficient, but it also produces small amounts of byproducts that need to be managed. Your body has built-in systems to neutralize or repair any damage from these byproducts, maintaining a balance between energy production and protection. At the same time, your body is constantly managing the shape and flexibility of your red blood cells. These cells need to pass through extremely narrow capillaries, sometimes smaller than the cells themselves. To do this, they are shaped like flexible discs that can bend and deform without breaking. This flexibility is essential for delivering oxygen to tissues that would otherwise be difficult to reach. There is also a continuous process happening in your bone marrow, where blood cells are produced. Stem cells in the marrow give rise to red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, each with a specific role. The production rate can change depending on your body's needs. If oxygen demand increases, more red blood cells may be produced. If there is an infection, white blood cell production can increase. This adaptability allows your body to respond to changing conditions over time. Your body also uses a system of checks and balances when it comes to cell growth. Cells receive signals that tell them when to divide, when to pause, and when to stop altogether. These signals come from both internal processes and interactions with neighboring cells. This regulation is critical for maintaining structure and function across tissues, ensuring that growth remains controlled. Another interesting process involves how your body handles nutrients once they are absorbed. After digestion, nutrients enter your bloodstream and are transported to the liver, where they are processed and distributed. The liver decides how much to store, how much to release, and how much to convert into other forms. This makes it a central hub for managing energy and resources. Your body also maintains a constant exchange of gases and fluids at the level of tissues. Oxygen and nutrients move from capillaries into cells, while carbon dioxide and waste products move back into the bloodstream. This exchange is driven by differences in concentration, allowing materials to move efficiently without requiring active transport in every case. There is also a subtle but important process happening in how your body manages signal timing between different systems. For example, hormonal signals may take longer to reach their targets than nerve signals, but they often produce longer-lasting effects. This creates a layered system of control, where rapid adjustments are handled by the nervous system and longer-term changes are guided by hormones. Your body also has a way of adjusting sensitivity to signals over time. If a receptor is exposed to the same signal repeatedly, it may become less responsive, a process known as desensitization. This prevents systems from becoming overstimulated and allows them to remain responsive to new or changing signals. Another layer of coordination appears in how your body handles oxygen delivery during physical activity. As muscles become more active, they produce more carbon dioxide and heat, which signals blood vessels to expand in those areas. This increases blood flow and improves oxygen delivery exactly where it is needed, without requiring a central command. Your body also maintains structural organization within cells through compartments called organelles. Each organelle has a specific function, such as energy production, protein synthesis, or waste processing. This compartmentalization allows multiple processes to occur simultaneously without interfering with each other. There is also an ongoing process of communication between cells through direct contact. Cells can connect through junctions that allow small molecules and ions to pass directly from one cell to another. This creates coordinated activity in tissues, such as in the heart, where cells contract in a synchronized pattern. Your body also uses pressure and flow to regulate filtration in organs like the kidneys. Blood enters filtering units under pressure, and small molecules pass through while larger components are retained. The filtered fluid is then modified through reabsorption and secretion, allowing precise control over what is excreted. Another interesting aspect is how your body manages the balance between stability and flexibility. Systems are designed to maintain consistent conditions, but also to adapt when necessary. This balance is achieved through feedback loops that continuously monitor and adjust activity. Your body also has a way of coordinating repair across different scales. At the cellular level, damaged components are replaced. At the tissue level, cells migrate and rebuild structure. At the system level, blood flow and immune responses support the repair process. These layers work together, ensuring that recovery is efficient and controlled. There is also a continuous interaction between your body and the environment at the molecular level. Molecules from the air, food, and surroundings enter your body and interact with its systems. Your body filters, processes, and responds to these inputs, maintaining internal stability despite constant external change. At every level, from the smallest molecules to the largest systems, your body is operating through a combination of structure, signaling, and adaptation. These processes are not isolated, they are interconnected, forming a network that supports continuous function. And even as all of this unfolds, it remains largely invisible, happening without interruption, maintaining a level of coordination that is both complex and consistent. Another layer of the body that becomes more fascinating the closer you look at it is how it handles communication between distant organs without relying on a central command. Instead of one system directing everything, your body uses distributed signaling, where different parts send and receive information simultaneously. For example, your pancreas monitors blood glucose levels and releases insulin or other hormones accordingly, while your liver responds by storing or releasing glucose. These two organs are constantly communicating through the bloodstream, adjusting in real time without needing direct instructions from the brain. At the same time, your body is constantly measuring flow rates, how quickly substances move through different systems. Blood flow, air movement, and even the passage of food through your digestive tract are all regulated to maintain efficiency. If something moves too quickly, absorption may be incomplete. If it moves too slowly, it can disrupt balance. Your body adjusts these rates through muscle contractions, pressure changes, and signaling pathways that keep everything moving at an appropriate pace. There is also a continuous process of structural reinforcement happening in response to repeated use. In muscles, this is seen as strengthening over time, but a similar principle applies to connective tissues and even blood vessels. Areas that experience consistent demand can become more efficient at handling it. This adaptability is not immediate, but it reflects your body's ability to respond to patterns over time. Your body also uses gradients of temperature to regulate function in certain areas. For example, blood flow to the skin can increase or decrease to help dissipate or conserve heat. This adjustment happens without conscious awareness, balancing internal temperature with external conditions. In some cases, Localized temperature changes can also influence enzyme activity, subtly affecting how quickly certain reactions occur. Another interesting aspect is how your body maintains orientation and movement even when sensory input is reduced. If you close your eyes, your ability to move doesn't disappear. Instead, your body relies more heavily on internal feedback from muscles and joints. This redundancy ensures that movement remains possible even when one source of information is limited. Your body also has a way of prioritizing repair during periods of lower activity. When you are resting, resources can be redirected toward processes like tissue repair, protein synthesis, and immune function. This shift doesn't require a complete stop in other systems, but it reflects a redistribution of effort based on current conditions. There is also a subtle coordination between your digestive system and your energy levels. After eating, blood flow increases to the digestive tract to support processing, which can lead to a temporary decrease in alertness. This is not simply a passive effect, it's part of how your body allocates resources to handle incoming nutrients. Your body also uses mechanical signals to influence cell behavior. Cells can detect pressure, stretch, and movement, and they respond by adjusting their activity. This is part of how tissues maintain their structure and adapt to changing conditions. It's not just chemical signaling, physical forces also play a role in regulation. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles variability. No system operates at a perfectly constant level. Instead, there are small fluctuations in heart rate, breathing, and other processes. These variations are not errors, they are part of normal function, allowing the system to remain flexible and responsive. Your body also has a way of coordinating activity across different time scales. Some processes happen in milliseconds, like nerve signals, while others unfold over hours or days, like hormone-driven changes. These different time scales overlap, creating a system that can respond quickly while also adapting gradually. There is also an ongoing process of resource recycling at the molecular level. Components that are no longer needed are broken down and reused, reducing waste and maintaining efficiency. This recycling happens continuously, ensuring that materials are available when needed. Your body also maintains a constant interaction between structure and function. The shape of tissues and organs influences how they work, and their function, in turn, can influence their structure over time. This relationship allows your body to remain both stable and adaptable. Another interesting detail is how your body manages transitions between states. For example, the shift from rest to activity involves coordinated changes in heart rate, breathing, blood flow, and energy use. These changes are not abrupt, they are gradual and synchronized, allowing for smooth transitions. Your body also uses local control mechanisms in addition to global ones. While hormones can influence the entire body, many adjustments happen at the level of individual tissues. Cells can respond to their immediate environment, making localized changes that contribute to overall balance. There is also a continuous exchange of information between your body and your environment through sensory input. Light, sound, temperature, and other factors are constantly being detected and integrated into your body's internal regulation. At every level, your body is balancing stability with change, using multiple overlapping systems to maintain function. These processes are not isolated, they are interconnected, forming a network that adapts continuously without requiring conscious direction. And even as all of this continues, it does so in a way that feels seamless, with each part contributing to a system that remains stable through constant adjustment. Another detail that becomes more interesting the closer you look is how your body uses probability rather than certainty at the molecular level. Inside your cells, many interactions are not perfectly directed. Molecules move randomly, colliding and reacting based on chance encounters. And yet, because there are so many molecules moving at once, useful reactions happen reliably. Your body doesn't need every interaction to be precise, it relies on large numbers and constant motion to ensure the right outcomes emerge consistently. This is especially true in enzyme activity. Enzymes speed up chemical reactions by lowering the energy required for them to occur, but they don't force reactions to happen. Instead, they increase the likelihood that molecules will interact in the right way. Without enzymes, many of the reactions that sustain life would occur far too slowly to support normal function. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles noise in signals. Not every signal inside your body is perfectly clean or consistent. There is variation, fluctuation, and randomness. But instead of eliminating that noise entirely, your body uses systems that can function despite it. In some cases, a certain level of variability actually improves responsiveness, allowing systems to adjust more flexibly to changing conditions. Your body also constantly manages tension within tissues, even when you're not moving. Muscles maintain a slight level of contraction known as muscle tone, which helps support posture and readiness for movement. This tone is not fixed, it is continuously adjusted based on feedback from your nervous system. Without it, even simple movements would feel unstable or delayed. There is also an ongoing process of calibration between expectation and reality in your brain. When you perform an action, your brain generates a prediction of what should happen. Sensory feedback is then compared to that prediction. If there is a difference, adjustments are made. Over time, this comparison allows your brain to refine its internal models, improving coordination and accuracy. Your body also uses timing delays intentionally. Not every response is immediate. Some processes are delayed on purpose to prevent overreaction. For example, certain hormonal responses are released gradually, creating sustained effects rather than sudden spikes. This helps maintain stability over longer periods rather than reacting too quickly to short-term changes. Another interesting aspect is how your body handles competition between signals. In many cases, opposing signals are present at the same time. One signal may promote a process, while another inhibits it. The final outcome depends on the balance between these influences. This allows for fine control rather than all-or-nothing responses. Your body also has a way of maintaining baseline activity even when nothing appears to be happening. Many systems operate at a low level of activity continuously, rather than turning on and off completely. This allows for faster responses when needed, because the system is already partially active. There is also a continuous process of error tolerance built into your biology. Systems are designed to function even when conditions are not perfect. Slight imbalances, small fluctuations, and minor disruptions are absorbed without causing failure. This resilience comes from redundancy, feedback, and adaptability working together. Another layer appears in how your body uses spatial organization to improve efficiency. Inside cells, certain reactions occur in specific locations rather than randomly throughout the cell. This organization reduces the distance molecules need to travel and increases the likelihood of interactions happening efficiently. Your body also constantly adjusts signal strength. Not every signal needs to be strong to be effective. Some signals are amplified, while others are dampened, depending on what is required. This allows for subtle control over processes without overwhelming the system. There is also a process of synchronization across different systems. For example, during coordinated movement, multiple muscle groups must activate in a specific pattern and timing. This synchronization is guided by signals that align activity across different regions, ensuring that actions are smooth rather than fragmented. Another interesting detail is how your body manages thresholds. Many responses are only triggered when a signal reaches a certain level. This prevents constant activation from minor fluctuations. Once the threshold is reached, the response is initiated, often quickly and decisively. Your body also uses gradual transitions instead of abrupt changes. When moving from one state to another, such as rest to activity, adjustments happen in stages. This prevents instability and allows systems to remain coordinated during the transition. There is also a continuous process of resource allocation happening at every level. Energy, nutrients, and signaling molecules are distributed based on demand, with priority given to processes that are most critical at the time. This allocation is dynamic, shifting as conditions change. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles overlapping functions. Many structures serve multiple roles rather than a single purpose. For example, certain proteins may be involved in both structural support and signaling, depending on context. This multifunctionality increases efficiency and adaptability. Your body also maintains a balance between local independence and global coordination. Individual cells can respond to their immediate environment, while still contributing to the overall function of the body. This allows for both flexibility and integration. There is also a continuous process of self-monitoring. Systems detect their own output and adjust accordingly, creating loops of feedback that maintain stability. These loops operate at multiple levels, from individual cells to entire organ systems. And through all of this, your body operates not as a rigid machine, but as a dynamic system that is constantly adjusting, refining, and maintaining itself through countless small interactions happening all at once. Another layer becomes clear when you look at how your body deals with scale, because the same principles repeat from the smallest level all the way up to whole systems. At the microscopic level, molecules move based on diffusion and gradients, while at the level of tissues and organs, fluids and blood follow similar rules, just on a larger scale. This consistency allows the body to use the same fundamental ideas, flow, pressure, and concentration, to solve very different problems across different sizes. Your body also constantly manages latency, or the delay between a signal and a response. Some pathways are designed to be extremely fast, such as reflex arcs, where signals travel through short loops to produce immediate action. Others are intentionally slower, allowing for more integration and adjustment before a response is made. This variation in timing ensures that not every signal produces an immediate reaction, which would make the system unstable. There is also a process of signal integration happening in many parts of the body. A single cell may receive multiple signals at once, some encouraging activity and others discouraging it. Instead of responding to each signal individually, the cell combines them into a single outcome. This allows for more nuanced behavior, where responses reflect the overall context rather than isolated inputs. Another interesting feature is how your body uses gradual amplification instead of sudden changes. Small initial signals can lead to larger responses through cascades, where each step increases the effect slightly. This allows the body to scale responses based on need, rather than jumping directly from inactive to fully active. Your body also has a way of maintaining reserve capacity. Many systems operate below their maximum capability most of the time. This means that when demand increases, such as during physical activity or stress, there is room to increase output without needing to build new capacity immediately. This reserve is part of what allows your body to respond quickly to unexpected changes. There is also a continuous process of pattern detection happening in your brain. Rather than processing every detail independently, your brain looks for patterns and regularities. This reduces the amount of information that needs to be processed and allows for faster interpretation. It's why familiar environments feel easier to navigate, because your brain has already built models that match what it expects to see. Your body also uses chemical gradients as directional signals. In some cases, cells move toward or away from certain chemical concentrations, a process known as chemotaxis. This is how immune cells can locate areas of infection or damage, following chemical trails to reach the right location. Another layer appears in how your body manages synchronization between distant systems. For example, during coordinated activity, signals from the brain, feedback from muscles, and hormonal responses all align to support the same goal. This coordination is not directed from a single point, but emerges from communication between systems. Your body also maintains dynamic equilibrium, where conditions are stable overall but constantly fluctuating in small ways. Heart rate, breathing, and other variables are not perfectly constant, they vary slightly from moment to moment. This variability allows the system to remain adaptable and responsive. There is also a process of resource buffering. Your body stores energy, nutrients, and other resources so they can be used when needed. These buffers smooth out fluctuations, ensuring that short-term changes do not immediately disrupt function. Another interesting aspect is how your body handles redundant pathways for critical functions. If one pathway is less effective, another can compensate. This redundancy increases reliability and reduces the risk of failure. Your body also uses feedback timing to control how quickly adjustments are made. Some feedback loops act almost instantly, while others operate over longer periods. This layering allows for both rapid corrections and gradual adjustments. There is also a continuous interaction between structure and flow. The shape of blood vessels, airways, and other pathways influences how fluids move through them. Over time, these structures can adapt, changing in response to the patterns of flow they experience. Your body also maintains threshold sensitivity, where small changes are ignored until they reach a level that requires a response. This prevents constant activation from minor fluctuations. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles overlapping control systems. The same function may be influenced by both neural and hormonal signals, providing multiple ways to regulate activity. Your body also uses temporal coordination, where events are timed relative to each other. For example, the timing of muscle contractions must align with breathing and circulation during activity. This coordination ensures efficiency and prevents interference between systems. There is also a process of continuous recalibration, where systems adjust based on recent activity and current conditions. This allows your body to remain accurate and responsive even as circumstances change. Your body also manages energy distribution in a way that prioritizes essential functions. Even when energy is limited, critical systems continue to operate, while less essential processes may slow down. Another interesting feature is how your body uses local feedback to influence global outcomes. Small changes at the cellular or tissue level can accumulate, affecting larger systems over time. Your body also maintains signal diversity, using different types of signals: electrical, chemical, mechanical, to coordinate activity. Each type has its own advantages, allowing for flexibility in how information is transmitted. There is also a continuous process of balancing stability with adaptability. Systems are designed to remain within certain limits, but also to adjust when conditions change. At every level, your body is operating through these overlapping principles: timing, feedback, gradients, and coordination, creating a system that is both stable and constantly in motion, maintaining function through continuous adjustment rather than fixed control. Another detail that becomes more interesting the deeper you go is how your body handles information compression. Your senses take in an enormous amount of raw data, far more than your brain could ever process in full detail. Instead of storing everything exactly as it is, your brain compresses that information, keeping what is useful and discarding what is repetitive. This is why memories often feel simplified or reconstructed rather than perfectly recorded. The brain is not trying to preserve exact copies of events, it is trying to preserve patterns that can be used again. This same principle appears in how your brain fills in gaps. There are moments when your sensory input is incomplete, but your brain completes the picture based on expectation. For example, your eyes have a natural blind spot where the optic nerve exits the retina, yet you never notice a hole in your vision. Your brain fills that space automatically using surrounding information. This kind of reconstruction happens constantly, creating a seamless experience even when the underlying data is partial. Another layer of complexity shows up in how your body uses timing differences to locate things in space. When you hear a sound, your brain compares the tiny difference in when that sound reaches each ear. Even a difference of microseconds is enough to determine direction. This processing happens so quickly that it feels immediate, but it relies on extremely precise timing calculations. Your body also has a built-in system for detecting chemical changes in the air beyond smell. For instance, your respiratory system can respond to irritants or shifts in air composition, adjusting breathing patterns or triggering reflexes like coughing. These responses are protective, preventing harmful substances from entering deeper into your lungs. There is also something interesting in how your body manages partial activation of systems. Not every process is fully on or fully off. Many operate at intermediate levels, adjusting gradually depending on need. This allows for fine control rather than abrupt changes, which would be inefficient or disruptive. Another subtle process involves how your body handles signal overlap. Multiple signals can occur at the same time, and your body must interpret them together. For example, a change in temperature, pressure, and chemical signals might all occur simultaneously, and your body integrates them into a single response rather than treating each one separately. Your body also has a way of maintaining internal reference points. For example, your sense of upright position is not based solely on external cues, but on internal signals that provide a consistent reference. This allows you to maintain orientation even when visual input is limited or absent. There is also a continuous process of adaptation to repeated motion. If you are exposed to a repetitive movement, such as being in a moving vehicle, your body gradually adjusts to it. Over time, the same motion produces less of a response, which is why initial sensations like motion sickness can decrease as your body adapts. Another interesting aspect is how your body handles energy conversion efficiency. Not all energy from nutrients is converted into usable work. Some is lost as heat, which contributes to maintaining body temperature. This balance between efficiency and heat production is part of how your body sustains both activity and stability. Your body also uses layered control systems for many functions. For example, breathing can be controlled automatically by your brainstem, but it can also be influenced consciously. This dual control allows you to override automatic patterns when needed, such as when speaking or holding your breath, while still maintaining a default system that operates continuously. There is also a process of continuous recalculation happening in your brain when it comes to movement. Your brain is not just sending commands, it is constantly updating those commands based on feedback. This allows for smooth, coordinated motion even when conditions change unexpectedly. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles micro-adjustments in circulation. Blood flow is not evenly distributed at all times. Instead, it is constantly being redirected in small ways to match demand. These adjustments happen locally, based on signals from tissues, as well as globally, through hormonal and neural control. Your body also has a way of managing overlapping sensory inputs. When multiple senses provide information at the same time, your brain integrates them into a unified perception. This is why your experience of the world feels cohesive rather than fragmented, even though it is built from multiple sources. There is also a continuous process of signal decay and renewal. Signals within your body are not permanent, they fade over time unless they are reinforced. This allows systems to reset and remain responsive to new information rather than being locked into previous states. Another interesting detail is how your body uses mechanical advantage in movement. The arrangement of bones and muscles allows for efficient force generation, even though the system may not always maximize strength. In many cases, the body prioritizes speed and range of motion over pure force, depending on what is needed. Your body also maintains a balance between predictability and flexibility. Some processes follow consistent patterns, while others adjust based on changing conditions. This combination allows your body to remain stable while still adapting to new situations. There is also a process of continuous monitoring of internal signals that never reaches conscious awareness. Your brain receives input about blood chemistry, organ function, and other internal states, but only a small portion of that information becomes part of your conscious experience. Another layer appears in how your body handles synchronization during complex actions. Activities like walking, speaking, or even maintaining posture require multiple systems to coordinate precisely. This coordination happens automatically, without the need for step-by-step control. Your body also uses gradual scaling of responses rather than immediate full activation. Small changes produce small responses, while larger changes produce stronger ones. This scaling allows for efficient use of resources and prevents unnecessary effort. At every level, your body is operating through these interconnected processes. Compressing information, integrating signals, adjusting continuously, and maintaining balance. It is not a system that simply reacts, but one that constantly refines its responses based on both current conditions and past experience. Another detail that becomes more interesting the closer you examine it is how your body handles movement at extremely small scales, far below anything you could ever feel. Inside your cells, there are tiny structures often compared to molecular motors that physically carry materials from one place to another. These proteins walk along microscopic pathways, transporting cargo such as nutrients, signaling molecules, and cellular components. They don't move randomly, they follow structured tracks, step by step, using chemical energy to power each motion. Without this internal transport system, cells would not be able to organize themselves or maintain their function. This kind of movement also appears in a different form in your respiratory system. Inside your airways, there are tiny hair-like structures called cilia that beat in coordinated waves. Their job is to move mucus upward and out of the lungs, carrying with it particles, dust, and microorganisms that have been inhaled. This process is happening continuously, quietly clearing your airways without you ever noticing it. Your body also has a way of detecting shear forces, which are forces created when fluids move across surfaces. In your blood vessels, cells lining the walls can sense how fast blood is flowing and how much force it is applying. In response, they release signals that can cause the vessels to widen or narrow, adjusting circulation based on flow rather than just pressure. There is also something interesting in how your body manages signal overlap in time. When multiple signals arrive at a neuron, they don't always act independently. Instead, they can combine if they arrive close together in time, increasing the likelihood that the neuron will activate. This process, known as temporal summation, allows your nervous system to integrate information across time rather than reacting to each signal in isolation. Your body also constantly maintains structural tension across tissues, even when you're completely still. This tension is distributed through connective tissue networks that link different parts of the body together. It helps maintain shape, supports movement, and allows forces to be transmitted across distances within the body. Another layer appears in how your body handles directional flow at the microscopic level. In many systems, movement is not random but guided. For example, during development or repair, cells can move in specific directions in response to chemical signals, forming organized structures rather than chaotic arrangements. Your body also uses feedback from movement itself to refine control. When you perform an action, the movement generates sensory input that is fed back into your nervous system. This feedback is used immediately to adjust the ongoing action, creating a loop where movement and correction happen simultaneously. There is also a continuous process of fluid exchange in tissues that doesn't rely entirely on the circulatory system. Fluids move between cells and surrounding spaces, carrying nutrients and waste products in ways that complement blood flow. This creates a secondary level of distribution that supports cellular function. Another interesting detail is how your body manages signal thresholds that change over time. A stimulus that initially triggers a strong response may produce a weaker response if it continues, or a stronger response if it increases. These thresholds are not fixed, they adjust based on recent activity and conditions. Your body also uses mechanical feedback in joints to maintain stability. Sensors detect joint position and movement, sending information to your nervous system that helps coordinate muscle activity. This allows for smooth, controlled motion without requiring constant conscious attention. There is also a process of energy storage in elastic structures. Tendons and other tissues can store energy when stretched and release it during movement, improving efficiency. This is especially noticeable in repetitive motions like walking or running, where energy is conserved and reused. Another layer of complexity appears in how your body handles competing priorities. When multiple demands occur at once, such as movement, digestion, and temperature regulation, your body allocates resources in a way that balances immediate needs with long-term stability. Your body also maintains microenvironments within tissues, where local conditions differ slightly from the overall system. These small variations allow cells to function optimally even when conditions elsewhere in the body are changing. There is also a continuous process of signal modulation, where the strength and duration of signals are adjusted rather than simply turned on or off. This allows for more precise control over responses. Your body also uses redundant sensory input to improve accuracy. For example, balance is determined by combining information from the inner ear, vision, and proprioception. If one source is less reliable, the others can compensate. Another interesting detail is how your body handles time delays in feedback loops. Some adjustments take longer to take effect, so your body must account for these delays when regulating systems. This requires a balance between reacting quickly and avoiding overcorrection. Your body also maintains continuous low-level activity in muscles and organs, ensuring that systems are ready to respond without needing to start from zero. This baseline activity supports stability and responsiveness. There is also a process of gradual adaptation to environmental conditions. Changes in temperature, altitude, or activity level lead to adjustments that unfold over time, allowing your body to function effectively in different situations. Another layer appears in how your body integrates internal and external information simultaneously. Signals from within your body and from your environment are combined to guide responses, creating a unified system of awareness and action. At every level, from molecular motors inside cells to coordinated movement across the whole body, these processes are constantly interacting, adjusting, and maintaining function through a balance of structure, signaling, and adaptation. Another detail that becomes more fascinating the deeper you go is how your body handles timing at the molecular level, especially when it comes to gene expression. Your DNA contains instructions for building proteins, but those instructions are not used all at once. Instead, genes are turned on and off in response to signals, and even the timing of when they are activated matters. Some genes are expressed in short bursts, others in steady patterns, and some only under very specific conditions. This allows your cells to respond precisely to changes without overproducing what isn't needed. Closely connected to this is something called epigenetics, where chemical markers can attach to DNA and influence how easily certain genes are accessed. These markers don't change the DNA sequence itself, but they can change how it is used. Over time, experiences such as diet, environment, and even stress can influence these markers, subtly shaping how your cells behave without altering the underlying code. Your body also constantly manages friction at the microscopic level, especially in areas where movement is frequent. In your joints, synovial fluid doesn't just act as a simple lubricant. It has properties that allow it to become more or less viscous depending on movement. When you start moving, it becomes thinner, reducing resistance and allowing smoother motion. This adaptive lubrication helps maintain efficiency while protecting surfaces from wear. There is also something interesting in how your body handles pressure distribution. When you stand or sit, your weight is not applied evenly. Instead, your body continuously shifts small amounts of pressure across different areas to prevent strain or damage. These adjustments happen automatically, guided by feedback from sensory receptors in your skin and deeper tissues. Another layer appears in how your body processes uncertainty in sensory input. Your brain doesn't just take signals at face value, it weighs them based on reliability. If one sense becomes less reliable, such as vision in low light, your brain gives more weight to other inputs like touch or balance. This dynamic weighting allows you to function even when conditions are less than ideal. Your body also uses chemical timing signals that act like internal clocks at the cellular level. Certain processes are scheduled to occur at specific times, even within individual cells. This timing helps coordinate activity across different parts of the body, ensuring that processes align with each other rather than interfering. There is also a continuous process of micro-repair in tissues that never fully stops. Even in the absence of noticeable injury, small amounts of wear and damage are constantly being corrected. Proteins are replaced, membranes are repaired, and structures are reinforced, maintaining function over time. Another interesting aspect is how your body handles signal gradients within tissues. Instead of signals being uniform across an area, there can be slight differences in concentration from one point to another. Cells can detect these gradients and respond accordingly, allowing for directional behavior such as growth or movement. Your body also maintains fluid viscosity in ways that affect how substances move. Blood, for example, is not a simple fluid. Its thickness can change slightly depending on conditions, influencing how easily it flows through vessels. This is regulated to ensure efficient circulation under different circumstances. There is also a subtle process of mechanical damping in your body, where movements are smoothed out to prevent abrupt or unstable motion. Soft tissues absorb and distribute forces, reducing the impact of sudden changes and allowing for controlled movement. Another layer appears in how your body handles parallel processing. Multiple systems operate at the same time, each handling different aspects of function. Your brain processes sensory input, your heart maintains circulation, your lungs manage gas exchange, and your cells carry out metabolic reactions, all simultaneously, without interfering with each other. Your body also uses local chemical environments to influence reactions. The same molecule can behave differently depending on the surrounding conditions, such as pH or temperature. This allows for fine-tuned control over processes at very small scales. There is also a continuous process of signal reinforcement, where repeated signals strengthen certain pathways. This is part of how habits form, both physically and neurologically, as repeated activity leads to more efficient responses. Another interesting detail is how your body manages force distribution during movement. When you apply force, it is not concentrated in a single point. Instead, it is distributed across multiple structures, reducing stress on any one area and improving efficiency. Your body also maintains chemical buffering systems that stabilize internal conditions. For example, buffers in your blood help maintain pH by neutralizing small changes, preventing large swings that could disrupt function. There is also a process of continuous sensory calibration, where your body adjusts how it interprets input based on recent experience. This allows for more accurate perception over time, even as conditions change. Another layer appears in how your body handles energy gradients within cells, using differences in concentration and charge to drive processes like ATP production. These gradients are maintained carefully, as they are essential for energy transfer. Your body also uses microdelays in signaling to prevent overlap or interference between processes. These delays ensure that signals arrive in the correct sequence, maintaining coordination. There is also a continuous process of structural alignment, where tissues adjust their internal organization based on how they are used. This helps maintain strength and efficiency over time. Another interesting aspect is how your body integrates multiple feedback loops simultaneously, each operating at different speeds and scales. Some loops respond instantly, while others adjust gradually, creating a system that is both responsive and stable. At every level, your body is operating through these layered processes: timing, adaptation, distribution, and coordination, maintaining function through constant adjustment rather than fixed control. Your body also manages something called signal prioritization, where not all incoming information is treated equally. Even within your brain, some signals are amplified while others are suppressed depending on context. If you're focusing on a sound, visual input may become less prominent. If something sudden happens in your environment, attention can shift almost instantly. This constant prioritization allows you to function without being overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data your body is capable of detecting. At the cellular level, there is a continuous process of protein targeting, where newly created proteins are directed to specific locations inside or outside the cell. This is not random. Proteins contain molecular addresses that determine where they should go, whether that's to the cell membrane, a particular organelle, or even outside the cell entirely. Without this targeting system, cellular organization would break down quickly. There is also a remarkable system for managing mechanical stress in blood vessels. The inner lining of your blood vessels can sense both pressure and flow, and in response, it releases signaling molecules that adjust vessel diameter. Over time, this can even influence the structure of the vessels themselves, allowing them to adapt to long-term changes in blood flow patterns. Inside your brain, there is a constant balance between excitation and inhibition. Some neurons increase activity in the network, while others decrease it. This balance is essential. Without enough excitation, signals would not propagate effectively. Without enough inhibition, activity could become unstable. The interaction between these two forces allows for controlled, coordinated processing. Your body also handles waste at multiple time scales. Some waste products are removed almost immediately through processes like breathing or filtration in the kidneys. Others are processed more slowly, broken down and recycled or transported to be eliminated over time. This layered approach ensures that waste does not accumulate, even though production is continuous. There is also a subtle process of pressure equalization happening in areas like your ears. Small structures adjust pressure differences between internal spaces and the external environment, allowing you to maintain balance and proper hearing even when altitude or pressure changes. Another interesting detail is how your body uses chemical gradients for navigation during development. As your body forms, cells move to specific locations by following gradients of signaling molecules. This allows complex structures to emerge from relatively simple starting conditions, guided by local information rather than a central blueprint. Your body also maintains a system of continuous microcirculation adjustments. Blood flow is not constant in every capillary. Instead, small vessels open and close in patterns, directing blood where it is most needed at any given moment. This creates a dynamic distribution system that changes from second to second. There is also a process of mechanical filtering in the lungs, where airflow patterns help trap particles before they can reach deeper regions. Combined with mucus and cilia movement, this creates multiple layers of defense that operate passively with each breath. Another layer of coordination appears in how your body manages signal duration. Some signals are brief and quickly turned off, while others persist for longer periods. This difference in duration allows for both rapid responses and sustained changes, depending on what is required. Your body also uses structural reinforcement through use-dependent changes. Repeated patterns of movement or stress lead to subtle adjustments in tissues, aligning fibers and strengthening areas that experience consistent demand. There is also a continuous process of internal mapping happening in your brain. Regions of the brain correspond to different parts of your body, creating a kind of map that allows for precise control and sensation. This map is not fixed, it can change over time based on experience and use. Another interesting aspect is how your body handles chemical signaling across very small distances. Cells can release molecules that affect only nearby cells, creating localized responses that do not spread unnecessarily throughout the body. Your body also maintains fluid dynamics that vary across systems. Blood flow, air movement, and digestive flow all follow different patterns, each optimized for its specific function. These patterns are influenced by structure, pressure, and resistance. There is also a process of continuous recalibration in sensory thresholds, where your sensitivity to stimuli adjusts based on recent exposure. This prevents overstimulation and allows you to detect meaningful changes more effectively. Another layer appears in how your body handles energy efficiency through coupling. Certain processes are linked together so that energy released in one reaction is used to drive another. This reduces waste and improves overall efficiency. Your body also uses distributed control systems, where no single part is responsible for everything. Instead, multiple systems contribute to regulation, each handling part of the overall function. There is also a continuous interaction between chemical and electrical processes, especially in systems like the nervous and muscular systems. Electrical signals trigger chemical changes, and chemical changes influence electrical activity, creating a feedback loop that supports function. Another interesting detail is how your body manages micro-adjustments in posture and movement even when you believe you are completely still. These adjustments are necessary to maintain balance and prevent fatigue in any one area. Your body also maintains adaptive thresholds for activation, meaning that what triggers a response can change depending on conditions. This allows for flexibility in how systems respond to similar inputs under different circumstances. There is also a process of signal propagation that depends on both speed and timing, ensuring that messages arrive in the correct sequence for coordinated activity. At every level, your body is continuously adjusting, integrating, and refining its processes, maintaining function through a balance of precision and flexibility that operates without interruption. And when you step back from all of it, from the signals, the movement, the constant adjustments happening beneath the surface, what begins to stand out is not just the complexity, but the consistency. Because none of these processes pause. None of them wait for attention. They continue steadily, moment after moment, forming a system that is always active. Even when everything feels still, your heart continues its rhythm. Your lungs maintain their exchange. Your brain processes, filters, and predicts. Your cells build, repair, and renew. All at once. All in quiet coordination. And what makes it even more interesting is that there isn't a single point where all of this is controlled. There's no central switch. No single command that tells everything what to do. Instead, it's a network. A system of signals and feedback. Of small adjustments happening everywhere at the same time. Each part responding to the others. each process influencing the next, creating balance not through stillness, but through constant motion. And yet, despite all of that activity, your experience of it is simple. You sit, you listen, you exist, while everything else continues in the background, without needing your awareness. That contrast between what is happening and what is felt is what makes it so easy to overlook. Because from the outside, your body feels stable, predictable, almost quiet. But underneath that calm, there is movement, timing, communication, on a scale that is difficult to fully imagine. And still, it works. Not perfectly, not rigidly, but reliably, adjusting when conditions change, compensating when something shifts, maintaining balance through constant correction, without interruption. Even now, as you've been listening, every system we've talked about has continued exactly as it should. Signals have moved, cells have divided, energy has been produced and used, all without pause. And as everything begins to slow again, not in your body, but in your awareness, there's something to take from that. Not as a thought you need to hold on to, but as a simple observation that much of what keeps you going is already taken care of. It doesn't require your attention. It doesn't need to be managed. It simply continues. Steady, coordinated, and consistent. So as your thoughts begin to settle, and your focus softens just a little, you can let that background activity remain where it is, quietly doing what it does. While you step back from it, there's nothing you need to track, nothing you need to follow, just the understanding that everything is continuing exactly as it should. And with that, you can allow yourself to rest, knowing that even in stillness, nothing stops.